Hi, everybody, and welcome to this Dice News Google Hangout. I'm Mark Pfeffer, the managing editor of Dice News. And with me today is Don Kawamoto, our associate editor, and Yvonne Lee, our community manager. And we're going to talk about some things that the two of them have been hearing out in Silicon Valley. And Yvonne, let's start with you. You have heard some things about women entrepreneurs and how they may be holding themselves back. What's that about?
Well, I spoke to a person who connects investors with entrepreneurs, and she said that not only do women hold themselves back, or are they held back by the normal things, lack of access to capital, and maybe not having the mentors or the right connections, but they tend to limit themselves in that maybe they wait a little bit too long to contact the people both in marketing or others. Men tend to get out of beta and show it while it still has faults, but get buzz for their product, their idea. But women, they want to get it perfect first, at least according to that foundation member.
Now, does this mean that they're not showing it to investors early enough, or that even once they've got the investment, they're just not being aggressive enough in getting out to the market?
Actually, she says a little bit of both, that the investors aren't hearing it, and so they're not getting funding, but also a lot of guys will go out and get buzz, talk to the media, while there still may be flaws in it, and then continue to work on it, whereas a woman might not want to show it until it's perfect or pretty darn close.
That's really too bad. Yeah. I was just going to say that, it's a shame because, like, women entrepreneurs, in essence, are shooting themselves in the foot because, by waiting to get it, a little bit more perfect before trying to get out there and tout it and get some buzz going, you have the guys who are doing it and getting funding. And if women are waiting to this point before they start showing it off and talking about it, the guys are getting funding and are able, with that money, to kind of get it quicker to that point of being just as perfect as the women wanted, and so by the time they kind of get it there, the women feel comfortable getting and showing it and talking about it. If there's a little bit of similarity in the space that both they and their male counterparts are in, the VCs are not necessarily going to want to fund their venture because they've already funded the guys if they're in a similar space, So...
Don, you've been hearing something else about, men and women, that, we know that a lot of women, or the media attention usually is on women, I should say, who decide to opt out of the workforce for a while for personal reasons or family reasons, and then, have to work pretty hard to get into it. But at the same time, is it true, or have you been hearing about that, that men can actually have a harder time, a more difficult time getting back to work?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I was talking to a Silicon Valley career consultant, and she was saying that, she's been working with, several men who've opted out of the career path, about 10 years ago and are now trying to get back in, and that, they have a much more difficult time than the women, because they have to kind of explain, well, what have you been doing for the past decade? And it's harder for men to get that kind of acceptance for the time they've taken off from the workforce and having this gap in their resume compared to women who may say, well, I took this time out, my children were in school, I wanted to devote more time to the family. Unfortunately, when men tend to say something similar, it doesn't seem to resonate as well with the hiring managers.
Are they opting out for the same reasons that women do? Is it the case of raising the family, and people have that Mr. Mom kind of impression that men are somehow not masculine if they do that?
Right. In terms of the opting out and the reasons behind it for men, to be honest, I haven't yet kind of delved further into taking a look at the reasons why men have, like a decade ago, decided to opt out versus women. I just know, one thing now for both men and women that need to kind of opt out if it's related to wanting more flexibility in your schedule or wanting to spend more time with kids, that, in the past decade and beyond, especially in Silicon Valley, it's getting a lot more friendlier to telecommute, to go ahead and have the flex time, even though Marissa Mayer with Yahoo has put the ban on that, and Best Buy has also kind of taken a look at this. There's more companies that are more apt to allow that than fewer, and making that shift to start banning it now. So, so for those reasons, it'll become less of an issue.
Let's move on and talk a little bit about jobs, and I'm thinking in particular telecom jobs, jobs in the telecommunications sector. Don, you've been watching the trends pretty closely. Those jobs were declining. I mean, the number of jobs in that sector were declining, but now they seem to be getting healthier and making a comeback. What's behind that?
Yeah, you're right, Mark. There's been these year-over-year declines, and in the last 3 consecutive months, we've seen some year-to-year growth. Although it is kind of, it's not like huge growth, but it is nonetheless growth year-over-year. And what's driving it is, consumers, continued use of wanting to be like data hogs. I mean, I look at my daughter, a 14-year-old, as a perfect example of, with more people wanting to look at videos online, spending more time online, it's really putting a stress on the carrier's network. And so hence, there's that greater need to expand their footprint for their networks. And it's even, spilling over to the satellite telecom as well. There was a report out by IBIS World recently that said in the next 5 years they expect to see substantial growth in satellite telecom, and that's being driven like the direct to the satellite TV services that people seem to be wanting, as well as having your cars connected more, to being to the internet as well.
So do you think that growth is going to continue, or do you think it's going to get more dramatic, or just keep kind of?
I think it's going to start getting more dramatic, because right now the year-over-year growth is kind of around 1%, not even quite 1%, but it's at least on the positive side on the year-to-year growth. But 5 years from now, I think it'll be a much more robust kind of growth that we'll be seeing year-over-year.
So one other thing. Moving on again, from sort of that sector trend down to a company-specific item. Seagate Technology, they're going to keep building their R&D facility in Fremont, right? And even though their results weren't great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, usually, when you have companies where their finances are getting a little bit squeezed, they start to kind of pull back on the hiring in a very large way. But it looks like Seagate, it's still planning to move forward with building its R&D facility in Fremont, moving over like 500 people to that facility, engineers, researchers, technicians. And even though the company has not come out and said, we're going to do a lot of hiring beyond, relocating our people to the Fremont facility, some of the scuttlebutt, some of the rumors around are that maybe they are looking at hiring more, about maybe 100 more people to add to that facility, which would be always a boom.
Okay. So, hey, one more company question is about Cisco. You were listening in on their earnings call, and we all know that they're going to be laying off some people. Are they laying people off because the business is really in trouble, or are they trying to just slim down because they're being impacted by PC sales, or what's going on there?
I mean, their quarterly financial results, actually, they're pretty good, but it's just, in looking out into the future down the road, John Chambers, the CEO, was saying, the economy looks really kind of shaky. He's not really quite sure how it's going to pan out, and because Cisco wants to take a more conservative view in light of this kind of, kind of a shaky economy and not quite sure it's going to really move forward as much as they hoped, that they wanted to kind of pare back to make sure that what they're spending, be it on people's salaries and other things, is the expenses are not going to run ahead of the money they're going to be bringing in for the revenues. So hence they're going to be looking at taking a 5% cut, in their workforce. Some of the other reasons he mentioned was, with a smaller workforce, he feels the teams will be smaller and also more agile and being able to kind of, move quicker on spotting trends and moving forward on coming up with solutions to kind of jump on those trends. And so, that's one thing that he's hoping to achieve, as well with a slimmer workforce. So we'll see how it all pans out, because they're going to start their layoffs in this current quarter. And then he says, a lot of them will be happening in this quarter. And then whatever they don't get to reach the 4,000, they'll be rolling out for the rest of the fiscal year.
Good. Great. Well, listen, thanks you both, Yvonne and Don, for taking the time out to talk about things this afternoon. I should say to everybody who's watching that if you hear of any rumors of things going on around Silicon Valley or whatever the tech world is where you happen to live, please send them to us. You can send them to tips, TIPS, @dice.com. Even if you're just hearing a rumor, we'll try and track it down and share out what we find. And don't forget to see what we're up to every day at news.dice.com. So once again, I'm Mark Pfeffer, the managing editor of Dice News, here with Don Kawamoto, our associate editor, and Yvonne Lee, our community manager. And we will see you next time. Thanks for watching.